So, to recap from the last video, which was solving linear equations, we're going to do a problem right here, and it's to solve for the variable, which the only variable is x. When there is a number in front of a set of parentheses, you do what is called the distributive property, which means you are going to distribute the -4 into every term inside of the parentheses. And when you do that, you're technically multiplying. So -4 times 4 is going to give you -16. There's an x with the 4, so therefore that x goes with it. -4 times -9, because the minus is in front of the 9, is positive 36. So that would be a plus 36. I did not do anything to the 2x, so that is being brought down. All right, now we're going to have to get x on one side since there's x on both sides. So like in the previous video, you're going to move the smaller number with x to the bigger number with x. Positive 2 is technically bigger than -16. So I'm going to move -16 over to 2x. So I'm going to add 16x to both sides to get 18x. I didn't do anything with the 36, so that is going to be brought down. 18 and x are technically being multiplied, so to undo that, we have to divide both sides by 18. 36 divided by 18 is 2, so x is 2. Our next problem is a real-world application problem, still solving linear equations, but it's not as obvious that it is a linear equation. The only difference between a real-world problem and a normal naked problem, like we call it, is that you have not created the equation yet. That is the extra step that you have to do in a real-world problem. So we have a 20-inch board is to be cut into 3 pieces so that the second piece is 4 times as long as the first piece. And the third piece is 5 times as long as the first piece. If x represents the length of the first piece, find the lengths of each piece. So we know that if I wanted to draw this out, I have a board that in total is 20 inches long. And it is cut into 3 separate pieces. So it is still 20 inches long. It's just now there are 3 pieces. The first piece is being represented by x, which is in that last sentence. So this first piece is x. Now we have to look back into our problem to give us the rest of the information on the second and third piece. In that first sentence, it says second piece is 4 times as long as the first piece. We know the first piece is x, so the second piece is therefore going to be 4 times x. The third piece is 5 times as long as the first piece. So first piece is still x, so that means the third piece is 5 times x. Now where does the 20 inches come in? Well, we know that if I took each piece and added them together, it's going to be 20 inches, and that's where our equation comes into play. So x, which is the first piece, plus 4x, which is the second piece, plus 5x, which is the third piece, is still going to be equal to 20 inches. Okay. Now we are going to combine like terms, and each one of these terms has an x with it, therefore they're all like terms. There is an invisible 1 here, so I'm going to add 1, 4, and 5 together, which will equal to 10x, because 1 plus 4 is 5, and 5 plus 5 is 10. I didn't do anything with the equals 20, so I just brought that down. 10 and x are being multiplied, so to get x by itself, we are going to have to divide both sides by 10. And so therefore x is equal to 2. We just found out that x is equal to 2, which means that our first piece is 2 inches long because it is just x. Now we're going to use this information to figure out the second and third piece. The second piece is 4 times x. We already know that x is 2, so I'm going to multiply 4 with 2 to get 8. The third piece is 5 times longer than the first piece. We already know the first piece is 2, so we're going to do the exact same thing like what we did with the second piece and multiply the 2 numbers together, and that's going to be 10. Okay, so let's just say I found all of these answers and I wasn't quite sure if I was right. Well, we still know that all three of these pieces added together should still equal to 20 inches. So to double check your work, you could just add 2, 8, and 10 together and see if that equals to 20 inches. 2 plus 8 is 10. And then bring down that plus 10. 10 plus 10 is 20. 20 is equal to 20, so that means that's a true statement. Therefore, your answers are correct. Now we're going to move on to our new lesson of the day with Coach Lee.
All right, we have another problem here. It says find the solution set for this absolute value equation. Okay, the process that I like to use for this is what I call ISS. No, not in-school suspension. I know some of you go there. Okay, so the first step is to isolate. Okay, isolate. That means we're going to get the absolute value by itself. We're going to do inverse operations to do that. So subtract 2 from both sides. That's going to give me 6 over here. And then bring everything on this side down. So that's 3 times the absolute value of 3. Okay? The next step, we're still trying to isolate the absolute values. We're going to divide by 3 on both sides. Whenever I do the one side of the equation, I have to do the other. The 3's cancel. That leaves me with just the absolute value of x minus 3 on the left-hand side and 2 on the right. All right, our next step is to separate. All right, so what I like to think of, I got 2 vertical bars. I'm going to use those bars to separate the equation. Okay, I'm going to write x minus 3 is equal to 2, which is what I have here. But if x minus 3 turned out to be negative 2, inside of here, if it was negative 2, I would take the absolute value, which would then be equal to 2 again. So I have to set this equal to negative 2. Now I just solved these 2 equations. Add 3 to both sides. X is equal to 5. Or add 3 to this side and x is equal to 1. All right, so these 2 are answer choice F, and F would be the correct answer. Thanks for coming.
Now I'm going to take it to Coach Wilson to introduce you how to solve absolute value equations.
So here we have an absolute value equation, and as you've already heard, it's isolate, separate, and solve. So that's the ISS method. This right here is already isolated. The absolute value is by itself. There's nothing we need to add or subtract. There's nothing we need to multiply or divide. We're all by itself. So we can move on. This part is done. We can check that off. Move on to separate. I want to move this equation into 2 different problems. So I'm going to have x minus 2 equal to positive 7. And then here's the tricky part, is you have to know that x minus 2 equals negative 7 as well. The reason this happens is because if I put in a positive 7 here, the absolute value of positive 7 is 7. But if I put in the absolute value of negative 7, that still should turn out to be 7. That's why these are our 2 answers. So now we just use our inverse operations to solve. We need to add 2. Those cancel. X is equal to 7 plus 2, which is 9. And then here we also need to add 2. X is equal to negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5. These are our 2 answers. You can see this written. If we check all our choices, positive 9 and negative 5, this is the only correct option. But if you had just solved this, you would have seen it was either B or C. So we had to solve this one to find the negative 5.
Everywhere.